At Rubber Band, we empower each other through positivity, kindness, and practical advice. Join a community of thousands of peers who understand the unique challenges you face. Rubber Band. Company agnostic, low ego, high empathy, always supportive.
Are you tired of spending endless hours on traditional hiring methods? Fairgo.ai is here to revolutionize the way you conduct interviews. Our platform allows for real-time AI interviewing, giving you the flexibility to connect with candidates anytime, anywhere. By automating the matching process, we eliminate the need for manual input, saving you time and effort. And the best part? We're committed to promoting a fair and unbiased interview process by removing identifying information. Embrace the future of hiring with Fairgo.ai today so you never miss another great candidate.
Welcome, listeners, to today's episode of the Rubber Band podcast, where I am joined by Byron Ellis. Now, before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that I live and work on, the Wadawurrung and Dja Dja Wurrung people. I recognise their continuing connection to the land and waterways. I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and I would like to extend this to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Welcome, Byron Ellis. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Eden. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's good to see you. It was probably, over 12 months since I last caught up with you, and I was teaching you about the florist, right?
My wife was very pleased with the result.
Oh, I'm sure you were very popular that afternoon. That was a fun day.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was great.
It's really funny. Yeah, it was great. I love catching up with people that I've run workshops with in the past, and some of them have continued down the floristry path, but I think you've taken a different path.
Yeah, so I wasn't that good at it.
You were much better.
You were much better.
You were natural. I remember that workshop really well because I think the majority of you were male. It was one of my favourites, just to see you all playing with flowers. It was a little bit out of your comfort zones, but you were all fabulous.
It was, but it made it quite relaxing. It was good. I enjoyed it.
Oh, fabulous. Well, look, I'm really glad to catch up with you again, Byron. And, these episodes are really around, career stories and hearing about your career in recruitment and, where it's taken you over the years and some of the lessons that you've learned, really just to share your knowledge with our audience. But I always feel the best place to start is to go back and learn a little bit about your history and your childhood and growing up. So tell us all about that, Byron.
Yeah, so obviously I'm English and came over to Australia in 2009. I was born in Leicestershire, right in the middle of the country, and went to Birmingham University. Graduated, I'm not going to tell you when I graduated, but I graduated from Birmingham. And I was actually, I got accepted to go into Leicestershire Police on the graduate promotion scheme.
Wow.
So that was always what I wanted to do ever since I was a kid. Always wanted to be a policeman. Got on the graduate promotion scheme for Leicestershire Police, and then just before I signed on the dotted line, I failed the eye test. And
really?
So that dream was crushed.
And was that a childhood fantasy? I mean, because you're of a similar generation to myself, and I can remember being a kid every Saturday night watching The Bill with my parents and just thinking it looked so cool. DCI, Haddock, Sun Hill,
I've still got, obviously too old now, but I've still got a yearning to do it. I'd love to do it. Even now, I would love to do it. I always see myself to be a detective, to be honest. So, but yeah, dream was crushed, and back then it kind of left me in a little bit of a limbo because I really didn't know what I wanted to do out of university. So I applied for every graduate scheme going at the time, and I ended up at Marks and Spencer's as a trainee manager.
Oh, cool.
Which was good. It's not really what I never dreamed of doing retail, and but the actual graduate scheme was brilliant. It was really taught you some solid commercials and also staff management. But I had a problem in my life, or what they considered a problem was that I played rugby at the time. And I trained twice a week and played once a week. Not so reasonably, good level, not professional or anything like that, but a reasonably good level. And I would walk into the store on a Monday morning with black eyes, ripped ears, limping around the shop floor. So after a season of that, I was told that if I wanted to continue, it would either be rugby or Marks and Spencer's. And,
you're kidding!
I chose rugby.
Yeah, and so you should, right?
No, it was, that was that they didn't say it in so many words, but that was the kind of message that I was getting from them.
Okay.
Which is fine.
Yeah, and I mean, so many people in the recruitment industry cut their teeth in retail, and I think even a short stint, it's really valuable, and you learn a lot. It's working on your feet, it's doing those long hours, it's troubleshooting, it's negotiation, it's dealing with complaints, it's all of that kind of stuff that we do constantly, right? Where did you go from there after Marks?
So, look, I guess like most recruiters, I kind of fell into recruitment. I went to a very, very small recruitment agency that were advertising for sales managers, not to work in recruitment. It was, can't even remember what it was for, to be honest. And I had an interview with them back in Birmingham, and they said, no, you're not right for this job, but we've got a client that would be interested in you, which was actually a recruitment agency, another recruitment agency, Baden & Clark. In Birmingham, and I didn't really know anything about recruitment at all. They teed me up, went for the interview, and I got the job. And that was it. I probably was one of the first people ever to be placed by Rec to Rec, I think, before Rec to Rec became popular.
Yeah, right. And what did you think? And very similar. I mean, I had a partner working in recruitment, so I had a relatively fair idea of what recruitment meant, but it was still a little bit blurry for me. I didn't quite have my head around it when I decided to move into recruitment. For you, what did you expect? Like, what were your expectations of being a recruitment consultant, and why did you decide this is going to be something I want to give a shot?
For me, I thought it would be a very varied job. I knew I'd have to speak to a lot of candidates. I was quite surprised. I mean, this would have been mid to late 90s, and I was quite surprised in the first few weeks at Baden & Clark around the sort of level of business development that they expected. And bearing in mind, this was before the time of emails, and everything was done on fax machines, and we were advertising in the paper for candidates. So this is real old school recruitment, and it was relentless. The business development that we did was relentless. But I worked there for the first month. It was brilliant. Loved every minute of it. And I kind of guess that's where I got the book from for recruitment. And, that was, as I say, late 90s, and I've never really looked back, never worked outside of a recruitment agency since. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I think the business development side of it when we first move in is something we, regardless of how much that is spelled out to us, it is quite overwhelming, right? Yeah. And, I'd been a small business owner, plus I had my very first corporate role at the age of 30 was in business development, but I still went, whoa, okay, this isn't necessarily what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be helping people find their dream jobs, and,
I was... on my, I think, second or third day, I was given a big A4 binder, and it was called the dog file. Right. And within it was just all these companies that I had to phone, and the companies would be small one-man bands. I remember one was a petrol station forecourt. Just phoning to see if they wanted any accounting temps, and it was merely to get me used to actually calling clients. As soon as I hit a certain level, and they went, right, here's your proper file. And I was given the letters A and B in Birmingham. That was it.
Wow. And it was literally calling from the phone book.
Yeah. Baden & Clark was a very, very successful company. They're a great company back then. So there was some established clients in there, but it was only any company beginning with A or B in Birmingham was mine. Wow. And that's how they split up the Birmingham businesses.
So doing all the calls and, I guess sinking your teeth into this new industry that, was you didn't even have, really expectations of what it might look like or what a day-to-day in the life might be. And, you're hitting the phones and you're trying to drive business and trying to bring roles in. At what stage did you say, do you know what, I think I can make a career out of this? What was it, that trigger point that made you go, I want to do this? This is me.
To be honest, it was actually really early on. I just, as I said before, I think the office I worked in was a fantastic office. We did 100% temp recruitment. So we would actually turn down permanent recruitment if it came through the door. We only went after temp. We were all on a shared commission scheme in the office. I would literally be on the phone taking a job in. I'd have a colleague next to me on the phone speaking to the candidate as I was taking the job in. And then I'd have another colleague faxing the CV over to the client. And that's how we operated. So the sort of, if you ever want to see a team work, that's how it was amazing. And you became really good mates. It was a very much a sort of work really hard, and we played very hard as well, to be fair.
Didn't we all?
And it was just, it was a bit like kind of like a Wolf of Wall Street almost environment. It was just an absolutely brilliant environment to work in. And I completely got the bug. And as I say, they were a brilliant business owned by, it was owned by one guy, Alexander Badenoch, who was just an immense person to work with and work for.
Amazing. And so talk me through the rest of your career, maybe to the point of where you came to Australia. Talk me through that.
Yeah. So I was with Badenoch and Clark for 4 years or so. Alexander sold the business to Modis. So things changed very quickly. And I went and relocated back to the East Midlands. So I worked for a small private business, ABPM in Nottingham, which was owned by a very good friend of mine. And that was a great business. It was a much smaller business. I became the office manager in Nottingham. So that was my first, I guess, foray into team management. And then would have been, I was there when 2001 with the World Trade Centers happened, because I remember where I was. Yeah. And then just around that time, there was a big recession in the UK. Yeah. And ABPM just scaled back the number of offices in the country. And I joined Hayes. I was approached by Hayes to go and work for Hayes. And it was back in Birmingham, which is where I'd spent all my university time. So I went back to Birmingham and joined Hayes. And at the time, I was given a choice. I either did a commercial desk or what they term public services, which is government, health, education, not-for-profits, organisations. And I chose public sector, public services. I just thought I did something different to do, because I'd always done the commercial side and just absolutely loved it. Love working for Hayes in the UK. It was a great place to work. We had a really good public sector team, and I was back in Birmingham. And so I went through the stages at Hayes, from consultant, senior consultant, business manager, and then I became an office manager of Solihull, which is a small suburb of Birmingham. And then I've been there 7 or 8 years, and if you do well at Hayes, you can be open to a transfer to a foreign country. I was approached to go to Canberra, and I said,
"Right,
I've never been to Canberra. I've been to Australia, but I've never been to Canberra." So I said no, and then about 6 months later, they came back and went, "Okay, you can come. We definitely want you to come out to Australia. You can go to Melbourne or Sydney." So I recently got married. Me and my wife flew out to Melbourne. We spent 4 days in Melbourne. Sorry, 3 days in Melbourne, 4 days in Sydney. And then on the way back, I had an interview in Dubai with the office in Dubai. Got back to the UK, and a month later, we flew out to Toronto. And I was offered a job in Toronto as well with Hayes.
Wow.
So when we got back to the UK, and me and my wife decided, it's something we definitely wanted to do, and we chose Melbourne.
Chose Melbourne? So why? What was it? What made you fall in love with Melbourne?
Do you know, it just felt, when we came to Melbourne, as I say, we spent 3 days here. It was May. It was pretty cold and dismal, but it felt really welcoming to us. And it felt quite similar to England in some respects. We went to Sydney and loved it. I mean, Sydney's spectacular, isn't it?
It's gorgeous. I'm a Sydney boy, right? Like it's gorgeous.
You see the harbour and everything like that. And I remember we caught a ferry over to Mosman because we didn't know where Mosman was. We just caught the ferry, and then I had my interview at Hayes, and he said, "Oh, if you come to Sydney, have you thought where you live?" And I went, "Yeah, I quite like Mosman. We've just been to Mosman." He goes, I'm not paying you that much. So it was
too funny.
But no, yeah, Melbourne just felt really much more homely, to be honest. So that's why we chose Melbourne.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad you did.
Toronto was too cold.
And what year was that you arrived in Melbourne?
2009.
2009. Well, talk me through your recruitment journey from 2009 in Australia. So you transferred over with Hayes, and tell me about everything that's happened.
Yeah, so transferred it. So I actually opened up Hayes Executive with a guy called Jason Buddermalay. There was 3 of us in the office. Jason is an Aussie guy. He now owns his own business, and there was Jason, myself, and Sarah Fenton. We opened up essentially a small office, Hayes Executive. We were separated from the main office of Hayes, so we were in a completely different office in the CBD, overlooking the Mitre, which was convenient.
Oh, fun and games.
Yeah.
I cut my teeth in the Mitre to do that, you know.
And my role was essentially to look after everything on public sector.
Right.
So we got the state government, the Victorian state government contract, but that only went up to, at the time, around about 120K. Everything outside of above 120K fell into the executive band, and there was no contracts for that in place. So Hayes weren't a preferred supplier. So it's my job really to go in and say, hey, we're not on contract. Here's our executive offering. This is what we do, and win the business. So, and it was 100% retained business that I was doing, predominantly in Victorian government.
Cool.
So I stayed there for I think 2 or 3 years, and then I moved over to Chandler McLeod because I kind of missed doing the management side, and moved to Chandler McLeod and managed their public sector team. They just bought Julia Ross, which was
I remember that. Yeah,
and they were on the state government panel through the Julia Ross channels. So I went in and sort of with the team in there, sort of explored how we could win more business in state government, predominantly state government. And then I also managed the financial services team and the accounting team as well. So it was a pretty varied role. Change of managers at Chandler McLeod, which probably impacted the team, and most people left at the time. Yeah. And I spent a couple of years at Michael Page, where I actually went back into the commercial world. And that's probably why I've never, I loved doing the public sector. And I went to Michael Page for a couple of years and realized, hey, do you know what, the commercial side probably, I kind of really miss that sort of public service, dealing with the charities, not-for-profits, the government agencies. So I went back into that with Hudson. And I was at Hudson for 7 years managing 6 or 7 years managing their Victorian government account, and the public service division. Excellent, which was great and brilliant company. Really enjoyed it, and then that's where I met you. Moved over to Talent.
Yes,
yeah. So I had a brilliant 12 months with Simon and the team over at Talent. Simon, he's a great guy to work for. Talent's an awesome business. They were looking to expand their executive search business, which I went into. Again, most of that work, because of, I guess, the nature of Talent and their businesses in the commercial world. And again, just felt, hey, really missed that sort of, that's when you kind of know what you're passionate about, I think.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you about that, because it's really interesting hearing your your career, and I can relate to a lot of what you're saying, because I think we always seem to be chasing something in recruitment. Like there's something that just clicks for us, and we're on this journey and we're constantly learning. Every role we take, we're learning something new, we're learning a different industry, we're learning a different sector, and sometimes it takes us, you know, a little bit of time to say, do you know what, I now know what I want to specialize in. And often people, and I did it for 18 months, and people like yourself then identify it's time to go on my own and really find what I've been seeking. Even though I loved all of my roles, I've been really successful, you know, as you described. It's pinpointing what is it that I'm really, really passionate about, and how do I make that my career now? So what is it for you? Like, what are you most passionate about?
As I say, I think, you know, reflecting over those sort of 20 years that I've just told you about, and it is actually the sector that you work in. And I think, you know, what I love about that sort of the whole public sector. When I talk about public sector and public services, I don't just mean government. I'm talking not-for-profits. I'm talking universities, colleges. You know, the whole spectrum of how it's funded. That's what I term public services. I find it really interesting. How they are funded. You know, you could speak to one not-for-profit and it's funded completely different to the next one. You know, health is, again, you know, they'll have their own pressure points. Yeah. And that does affect your candidates, and it affects how you recruit for them as well. So, and the variation that you get within that sector is huge. You can be speaking to a massive government department, and then you can speak to a very small statutory authority. They, again, will have very, very different pressure points to, you know, a huge federal or Victorian government department. And consequently, you get a really good mix of roles coming through. So I've recruited CEOs, recruited managing directors, I've recruited GMs of infrastructure for a state-owned utility company. I've recruited IT architects. I've recruited policy directors, policy managers. I've ran a team of consultants that only specialise in policy work. So it's very sort of niche, but it's really interesting where you can have, you know, they'll want a subject matter expert on wind turbines, for example. And we have to go out into the market and find those people. So as a recruiter, you become very good at doing the searches and finding that one person that might be in Melbourne that is an expert on that particular subject. And I think that's what I really love about
and learning that expertise and that complexity that comes with that, from trying to find that candidate, and the variety that you talk about, and the talent that those people have, right? Like it just makes it so interesting. Rather than, you know, quite often in, you know, you're talking about commercial roles where you might be specializing in accounting, and you're basically an accountant, and it's the same. Like I love what you describe in terms of that. These are fascinating people doing incredible work.
That's right. You can recruit an accountant in the commercial world, and you can have a talent pool, and within that talent pool, you may have 60 or 70 candidates. When you're doing it within the public service sector and you're recruiting for a policy manager, you might only have a talent pool of 3 people. Yeah. And because they just don't, if they do exist, there's not many. So you have to go out and find them. They may not be looking for a role. So you really have to go in and sell the role, what it means. And you never forget the impact it has on the community, because these people, they do it for the love of working with and having a positive impact on the community. Yeah. And that's also what I love, to be honest.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, that leads me to where you are today. So you've taken the brave decision of setting up your own business. Tell me all about it.
Yeah. So we're only 2 weeks in, so very early days. But
congratulations!
I set up a business enabled talent group. And it's really just a focus on everything that I've just taught. So delivering services into or recruitment services into the public service sector. So that's social, welfare, community groups, not-for-profits, for purpose, and yes, into government agencies, but really those related government agencies to that sort of social and welfare side, because I think that's really where they can really make a difference in terms of top down, if that makes sense. The business itself is split over 3 areas. So I guess going back to my roots in terms of exec search and permanent recruitment. I've just got my Victorian labour licence, which I was really pleased about.
Congratulations, that's great.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So I'm really pleased about that. So we can now offer temporary services and labour hire, and also talent acquisition services as well. So in my past, I've run really big bulk recruitment projects where we can outsource part of this recruitment process. So it could be a shortlisting services, it could be to help with reference checks. And that's really aimed at organisations that are scaling up very, very quickly for a particular project. So yeah, that's the 3 areas. And in terms of sort of candidates, it's really that sort of project delivery, program delivery candidates, the policy candidates, grant specialists, philanthropic candidates, and also those across corporate support. So, your traditional finance, marketing, procurement, IT guys as well.
So you've spent the past 20 years prior to going out on your own surrounded by other recruiters. How are you finding it in your own zone?
Yes. No, I love it. Do you know what? I've built up a really good network of recruiters. And actually, when we finish off this podcast, I'm heading out for lunch with my old team from Hudson.
Excellent.
So
you going to the Mitre?
No, not today. No. We're going down into Balaclava. The point is, I don't feel like I'm alone, to be honest. I know I can pick up the phone. I've got a load of friends that work in recruitment that I can just pick up the phone to, vent, and even ask for advice. I'm experienced, but do you know what? You're always learning. I've got colleagues that have set up their own businesses that are well advanced in terms of years than I am in terms of where they are with their business. They've reached out to me and actually said, "Hey, need some help? Give me a call.
How lovely.
Need some advice? Give me a call." So I'm physically working on my own, but I don't feel like I am, if that makes sense. I know I can pick up the phone.
Excellent. I love to hear that. And that's a big part of the Australian recruitment and talent acquisition industry. Yeah. We're also, we're passionate about networking. We're passionate about helping people. That's why we got into this game in the first place, right?
I think it's a big difference between I've not worked in the UK for a long time, but certainly when I worked in the UK, the competition is so intense that, you would do anything you would never help a competitor. You would never speak to a competitor down the pub. You would just, they were your enemy. And I think in Australia it is totally different. I've got plenty of friends that work for my competitors in the past.
Yeah, me too.
That we'll go out and have a beer together.
Absolutely,
it's great.
What do you think the biggest lessons you've learned over the years have been, Byron?
Sorry, just put these back in. I think for me, is stick to a market and to find something that you really love. So my passion, as I said, is that sort of public service work, public service sector work. And I think what you need to do is stick to your market and work through downturns and upturns. At the moment, I think we're probably, we're hovering around. Where is the market going to go? Is it going to go down, or are we in a stage of recovery? And I look at the successful recruiters that I've worked with in Melbourne. They've all got one thing in common: they've all worked through downturns, and they've always kept to the lane. They've never gone, "Oh, things are going terribly. I'm going to shoot off and get another job."
Yeah,
or do something else in a different sector. because I don't particularly like this sector. It's really finding what you love to do, what you love to recruit, and stick to it. Months and quarters are quickly forgotten in recruitment, and years pass by very, very quickly. And I think just stick to what you know and stay in that market and create really, really valuable networks.
I think that's great.
I think that's probably one of the biggest things I've learned actually in the 20 years.
Fantastic.
Melbourne's a big city, but it's a very small city in terms of networks.
That's true. It's so true. Well, the final question is, if there's a listener out there that's considering a career in recruitment, what would be your final piece of advice?
Take the job. It is a brilliant job, and you can get a brilliant career. Look, I've moved continents. My life has changed massively because I joined the recruitment company. But for the day-to-day advice, if you're new to recruitment, get into the office and don't work from home.
Oh, because we're going to have an argument.
The reason I say that is, I think, and I have seen this in the past company where I've worked, no one goes into the office. Everyone's working from home, which is fine. Like 20 years experience, I know what I'm doing. But even say, like what I said earlier, is that I can still learn from listening to colleagues' conversations. Yeah,
you can. Absolutely. When you're a rookie.
And I think when you're new to recruitment, you need to be sitting next to people that have done the role for years and years and years, and just listening to what they actually say and what they do in certain situations. And I think that's a really. My nephew's just joined Hayes in the UK, and I said to him, "Get in the office. Just get in the office and listen to what people are saying." And I think that's really important, because that's how a manager can teach you things how to do it, but you also need to see it in real life.
Well, you learn from what's around you, and I think I was joking there in terms of having an argument. I think finding that right balance. I think isolating yourself from home, or if it's essential for you to work from home. So let's not forget, some people need to.
No, absolutely, yeah.
You still need to have that connection and to learn from your colleagues. So
I think the 5 days a week are probably gone for every business. You want to spend more days in the office than more at home, if that makes sense. Yeah. And do you know what? Recruitment's a great social experience as well. And totally. I've got lifelong friends that I've got from recruitment, and that's because I work with them every day.
Exactly. It's so true. Byron, it's been an absolute pleasure catching up. Again, congratulations on the new business. I'm sure it's going to be an incredible success, and hopefully we'll bump into you at the MITRE very soon.
I'm sure hopefully. Thanks, Ian.
Excellent. Thanks, mate. Enjoy your lunch.
Bye-bye.